Pelvis is in retroversion, the shoulders are held back, chin's tucked in, crown of the head is up, eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and at the bottom position you want the spine to maintain a neutral position, and it should be parallel or higher to your shins. So I'm just going to have Cassandra perform a couple repetitions from the side. Hey everyone, Steven here from TV4, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to squat by taking you through a squat regression. Specifically, we are going to be demonstrating for you the half squat. The squat is one of the best exercises that you can perform, and it's a movement pattern that you perform on a daily basis. Every single time you go to stand up or sit down, you are squatting. Every single time you go to drop the Browns off at the Super Bowl, you are squatting. Every single time you go to get into your car, you are essentially doing a pistol squat with a lateral shift and a twist. It is one of the 7 primal patterns, along with pushing, pulling, bending, lunging, twisting, and gait. Unfortunately, one of the problems that most people either don't know how to squat properly, or they lack the proper mechanics in their hips, knee, or ankles, and they have some type of dysfunction in that area. So if you are somebody that can't squat properly, or if you have problems in any one of those areas, these squat regressions would be an excellent way for you to be able to learn how to squat. The squat progression that I'm going to be demonstrating for you today is going to be the half squat, and the half squat is going to be a progression to the quarter squat. If this is too difficult, I'm going to include a link right up over here to the quarter squat video. You can go ahead, give that a try, and then eventually progress to this. But with regard to the half squat, the reason this is a progression is because now we are getting closer to the ground. The closer to the ground that we get, the greater the range of motion and the greater the muscle recruitment. So if you are somebody that has adequate amount of strength and you're able to get down into a half squat, this would be a great exercise for you to incorporate. This one, it's basically like the quarter squat that we ended up doing last week. The only difference is going to be the depth. With a quarter squat, we ended up stopping at 90 degrees of knee flexion. With the half squat, we are going to squat down until the femur or the thigh bone is parallel to the ground. So I'm going to have Cassandra demonstrate from the side, and everything is the same as with all the other squat variations. Pelvis is in retroversion, the shoulders are held back, chin's tucked in, crown of the head is up, eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and at the bottom position you want the spine to maintain a neutral position, and it should be parallel or higher to your shins. So I'm just going to have Cassandra perform a couple repetitions from the side, and she's going to squat down until her thighs are parallel to the ground. So right now she's hinging forward just a little bit, so I'm going to have her squat down again, only this time I want you to squat down without letting your chest cave forward. So go a little bit lower, we're going to go right down to parallel. Perfect. So for Cassandra, she's a little bit tight in the front of the hips. So for her, the quarter squat would be an excellent regression to this particular exercise, and something like a heel elevated squat would be ideal. But this is basically the half squat. You get down to parallel. The one thing is you want to make sure that the torso is parallel or higher to your shins. And as with all the other squat variations, depending on the level of internal and external rotation of the tibia, and also the width, that is going to dictate which fibers we place the most emphasis on. If you recall, with regard to the quadriceps, we have 3 main knee extensors. That's going to be the Vastus Medialis, the Vastus Intermedius, and the Vastus Lateralis. We also have the rectus femoris, but that one also has an attachment to the hip. So because it attaches to the hip, it's also involved in hip flexion. It's not just a pure knee extensor. With regard to the half squat, I'm going to have Cassandra do the half squat again, only this time we're going to target those 3 main knee extensors. So for the first one, we're going to be targeting the Vastus lateralis. The Vastus lateralis, if you recall, is the most lateral. So because it's the most lateral, if we go into medial rotation of the tibia, so pointing the toes in slightly, we're going to get more myofascial tension on the lateral aspect of the femur, which is going to allow for greater recruitment of the Vastus lateralis. And as with the other videos, you should know by now that your level of internal rotation, 5 to 10 degrees, is going to be perfect for this exercise. Any more than that, you're going to create a lot of torque on the knee. So you only want some slight internal rotation. And I'm going to have Cassandra do a few repetitions. Everything else is going to be exactly the same. Pelvis is in retroversion, shoulders held back, chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and the back is going to be parallel or higher to her shins. Next, if we want to target the Vastus Intermedius, it would be the exact same, only the toes are pointing straight ahead. And then if we wanted to target the Vastus Lateralis, the Vastus Medialis is going to be the most medial of your quadricep group. So in order to target that, we would want to go into external or lateral rotation of the tibia. By going into lateral rotation, we're creating greater myofascial tension along the medial aspect of the femur, which is going to allow for greater recruitment of the Vastus Medialis muscle. Everything else is exactly the same. She's going to do a few repetitions. The pelvis is going to be maintained in retroversion, shoulders are held back, chin's tucked in, crown of the head is up toward the sky, eyes are looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and the torso is going to be parallel or higher to her shins. And that is for the vastus medialis, so the toes are pointing out. Aside from the ankle position, so going into internal and external rotation, we could also play with the level of abduction and adduction. So the more we go into abduction, the wider stance, the more stable we are going to be. Because we're more stable, less core activation, and we're also going to be creating greater myofascial tension along the medial aspect of the femur. So we're going to be targeting more the adductors and also more things like the vastus medialis. Whereas when we go into a narrow stance, the more narrow our stance, the more myofascial tension along the lateral aspect of the femur. So we're targeting things like the hip abductors and also things like the vastus lateralis. So I'm going to have Cassandra perform the half squat with a wider stance. Let's have the toes pointing a little bit more in a neutral position. Perfect. And a little bit wider with the stance. Perfect. And now we're going to perform a half squat, so she's going to squat down until her femur is parallel to the ground and then come back up. Everything else is the same. Pelvis in retroversion, shoulders held back, chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and back is parallel or higher to her shins. Then, if we wanted to target more the abductors and the vastus lateralis and just in general the lateral compartment of the femur, she's going to do the same thing with her toes touching each other, so the feet are going to be together. This is also going to involve more core activation because the base of support is more narrow, which means she's going to be less stable. Everything else is exactly the same, so she's going to go ahead and squat all the way down to parallel, and then she's going to come back up. Pelvis is in retroversion, shoulders held back, chin tucked in, crown of the head up, eyes looking down at the floor to put the dura mater under tension, and the spine is neutral, and it's going to be parallel or higher to her shins. And then you could also couple the movements. So you could go wide stance with external rotation, neutral, or internal rotation, and same thing with the feet together. But that is pretty much it for the half squat. If this one is too difficult, you can do a regression and go to the quarter squat. If you find that this one is challenging enough that you can do it, but it's still difficult, this is going to be the one that you want to stick with. Try those 3 different variations. See which one you are weakest in. Whichever one you're weakest in, that's probably the one that you need the most. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to make more of these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.